You know, there is this very specific, almost cinematic romanticism that we tend to attach to the concept of a debut album.
Oh, absolutely. It's really one of the great myths of music history.
Right. Like, we always picture this group of scruffy kids in a garage, maybe in Seattle or Manchester.
Yeah, with cheap instruments.
Exactly, just making noise. And then suddenly, they accidentally stumble onto a sound that changes the world.
It's the whole lightning in a bottle narrative. We want to believe that great art just, happens organically.
But today, for this deep dive, we're going to look at a debut album that completely dismantles that romantic idea.
Completely.
We're digging into the source material surrounding the 2017 album Mis-An-Thrope by the American band Dead. And I have to tell you, based on the release data, the chart history, the personnel credits from Sure Tone Records, this was no accident.
Oh, 100%. This is arguably one of the most calculated launches in modern rock history.
Yeah.
When you peel back the layers of Mis-An-Thrope, you are not finding garage demos. You're finding a masterclass in demographic targeting.
And a production lineup that honestly shouldn't make sense on paper, which is why our mission today is to decode that engineering.
Right.
We're unpacking how this specific record fits into the nu metal genre, looking at the heavy hitter behind the console, and analyzing the data behind their chart success.
And before we get into the mechanics of all that, we need to anchor ourselves in the timeline. The release date we're looking at is July 21st, 2017.
Which, if you remember the musical landscape of 2017, it's a weird time for rock music.
It is a very weird time.
Right.
If you look at the charts in 2017, nu metal, that rhythmic, aggressive, bounce-heavy sound from the late 90s and early 2000s that was supposed to be long dead.
Yeah, the trend cycle had totally moved on to indie pop and mumble rap.
Exactly. So for a new band to debut with this specific sound in the middle of the summer of 2017, it was technically a massive risk.
It's like wearing bell-bottoms in the 90s. You're either way behind the curve or you're trying to start something brand new.
And the data suggests they were betting on the latter. They were betting on a revival before it actually happened.
So let's look at who they actually are. Who was in the band Dead? Because this isn't just a random assortment of local musicians.
No, and this is where that garage band myth really falls apart.
Yeah.
The lineup on the record is Joe Cotela on lead vocals, David Ludlow on guitar and backing vocals, Matt Reinhardt on drums, and Kyle Kolsch on bass. It's a pretty standard four-piece setup.
But this is not their first rodeo. I was digging through the related artists and category notes in the source material, and I saw a connection to a band called Greeley Estates.
Right, and this is the first major clue that we aren't dealing with rookies here. David Ludlow and Kyle Kolsch both came from Greeley Estates.
Which is a completely different vibe.
Totally. Now, for you listening, if you weren't deep in the Warped Tour scene in the mid-2000s, Greeley Estates was a metalcore band.
And there is a massive difference between metalcore and nu metal.
Huge difference. Greeley Estates was much more in the vein of screaming, breakdowns, very chaotic, fast-paced, post-hardcore stuff.
Right.
It's technical, it's frantic. It is definitely not music you can dance to in the traditional sense.
Okay, so help me understand the pivot here. You've got guys who spent years playing technical, chaotic metalcore. Why do they suddenly slow it down, tune the guitars lower, and start playing nu metal as Dead?
It's a shift in the bounce. Metalcore is about speed and chaos, but nu metal is about the groove. It's highly rhythmic, it's accessible.
Oh, okay.
By transitioning from Greeley Estates to Dead, these musicians were effectively simplifying their playing to maximize the hook factor. They took all their experience knowing how to tour, handle gear, be professionals, and applied it to a genre that is just inherently more radio-friendly.
That makes a lot of sense. They already had their 10,000 hours of practice. They just changed the vehicle they were driving.
Precisely. They weren't learning how to play. They were learning how to craft a very specific sound for a specific market.
And radio-friendly is a key phrase there.
Yeah.
Because when I looked at the production credits for Mis-An-Thrope, I actually laughed out loud. I thought it was a typo.
Let me guess, you saw the name John Feldmann.
I did. And look, I grew up on pop punk. I know John Feldmann as the frontman of the ska band Goldfinger. I know him as the guy who produced Blink-182, All Time Low, 5 Seconds of Summer.
Yeah. He is the architect of shiny California pop punk.
So explain this to me like I'm 5. Why does a band called Dead releasing an album called Mis-An-Thrope, which literally means a hatred of humanity, hire the guy who writes songs about pizza to produce their heavy metal record?
It's brilliant, actually. If you analyze nu metal musically, it actually has way more in common with pop music than it does with extreme death metal.
Really?
Yeah, it relies heavily on verse-chorus structures. It needs big anthemic hooks that get stuck in your head. And John Feldmann is a master of the earworm.
So he brings the structure.
He brings the polish and the discipline. Feldmann treats a heavy guitar riff the exact same way he treats a pop synthesizer. He compresses it, makes it punchy, and ensures it doesn't get muddy.
Right, because a lot of debut metal albums sound messy. The drums drown out the vocals, or the guitars are just too fuzzy.
Exactly. But Feldmann's production on Mis-An-Thrope is clinically clean. Every vocal part is audible. Every chorus hits at the exact same volume.
That sounds expensive.
Because that was the goal. He turned their aggression into a product. He ensured that even though the aesthetic was dark and heavy, the songs were fundamentally catchy. It's sort of a spoonful of sugar approach to heavy music.
That is such a fascinating way to look at it. It's like putting a feral dog in a designer suit.
That's a perfect analogy.
It's still dangerous, but it looks great on TV.
And speaking of looking great on TV, that brings us to the second pillar of their rollout. You have the pop polish from Feldmann, but you can't lose your street cred.
Right, you can't look soft to the metal crowd.
Exactly.
Enter the man in the red backward cap.
Fred Durst.
Yep. The sources highlight that the official music video for their breakout single, Anti-Everything, wasn't just directed by some hired gun. It was produced and directed by Fred Durst,
The frontman of Limp Bizkit, which is huge.
Now, Fred Durst is a polarizing figure, sure. People either love him or they really don't. But in the context of nu metal, he is the godfather.
He's the aesthetic standard bearer. By getting Durst to direct the video, Dead wasn't just getting a director, they were buying a cosign.
Stamp of approval.
Exactly. It was a signal to every Limp Bizkit fan, every Korn fan, anyone who missed the year 1999, saying, hey, it is okay to like this band. The boss approves.
And visually, you can totally see it. I watched the video for the prep. It's gritty, it's chaotic, it uses those fisheye lens angles that were everywhere in the late 90s.
It's pure nostalgia marketing. In 2017, we were just starting to see the 20-year nostalgia cycle for nu metal kick in. And Dead positioned themselves at the absolute front of that wave.
So we've established the product is engineered perfectly. Veteran musicians, a pop producer, an icon directing the video. But all that dies without distribution.
Right?
I want to look at the singles strategy because the timeline in the source material tells a story of extreme patience.
It was a classic drip feed strategy. They did not just dump the album and hope for the best.
Let's trace it for the listener. The album drops July 21st, 2017. But when does the public actually first hear Dead?
December 23rd, 2016. 7 full months prior. They dropped the track FMFY.
Which stands for, well, we'll let you figure that one out. It's very polite.
Very polite. And notice, they didn't do a full music video for this first track. The notes specifically say it started with a lyric video.
Which is a crucial distinction, right? A full video costs tens of thousands of dollars. A lyric video is a fraction of that.
Exactly. Releasing FMFY as a lyric video first was them testing the waters. It's a low-risk hello to build the brand without breaking the bank.
And FMFY is a very aggressive track. It establishes the attitude, but it wasn't really the radio hit.
No, it's just the appetizer. The main course came in February 2017, February 25th specifically.
Anti-Everything. The second strike.
With the Fred Durst video. So look at that pacing. December is the teaser. February is the massive single with the celebrity director. They let that marinate for months. Then, in June, right before the album drops, they release Dead to Me.
And they don't stop there. The sources list Remember the Enemy in September 2017 and Hate Me way later in January 2018.
This strategy keeps the band in the conversation for well over a year. Most bands drop a record, put out a video, and disappear.
Right.
But Dead and Suretone Records ensured there was a new reason to talk about them every 3 or 4 months.
Which extends the life cycle of the whole project. Instead of being old news by August, they're pushing singles the next calendar year.
Vital in the modern streaming era, you have to constantly remind people you exist.
I want to pivot to how the market actually reacted, because strategy is great, but did anyone actually buy it?
The charts are where the rubber meets the road, and for a debut in 2017, the numbers are genuinely impressive.
Let's start with the album charts. Mis-An-Thrope peaked at number 3 on the U.S. Heatseekers Albums chart. Now, for the listener who doesn't track Billboard, what is a heat seeker?
Think of the Billboard 200 as the major leagues. That's Taylor Swift, Drake, Metallica. The Heatseekers chart is the minor leagues. It tracks acts that have never cracked the top 100 of the main chart.
So it's the definitive measure of the next big thing.
Precisely. Hitting number 3 means they were effectively the bronze medalists of all new breaking artists in the U.S. that week.
That shows genuine, organic growth.
Right. And they actually made it to number 16 on the independent albums chart and number 80 on top album sales.
Which, in 2017, getting people to buy a physical album and not just stream it is a big deal.
But the real driver for rock bands is radio play. And this is where the singles performance really shines.
You're talking about the active rock charts. Let's run the numbers. Anti-Everything peaked at number 18 on U.S. mainstream rock and number 20 on active rock.
Breaking the top 20 on your first real push is massive. It puts you in rotation next to bands like Disturbed and Korn. That validates your festival booking fees.
Yeah, you're not playing the parking lot stage at noon anymore.
Exactly, you're on the main stage. And they followed it up. Remember, The Enemy hit number 21 on mainstream rock and 20 on active rock. Hate Me hit 32.
That consistency proves they weren't a one-hit wonder.
Right. Radio programmers saw the audience reacting to the band's overall sound, not just one catchy track.
I want to shift gears and talk about the architecture of the album itself, the physical makeup of the record. The very first thing I noticed was the runtime.
37 minutes and 24 seconds.
That is incredibly tight for a metal album, just 11 tracks.
It is, and I think it's perfect. Listener fatigue is very real with heavy music. If you have an hour of screaming and heavy guitars, by track 8, you're exhausted.
Definitely.
By keeping it under 40 minutes, DID ensures you listen to the whole thing. It's all killer, no filler.
Get in, say your piece, get out. And the track walkthrough is fascinating. They front-load it so aggressively.
Oh, they put almost every single right at the top.
Right. You've got Architect, then Anti-Everything, Dead to Me, FMFY, Remember the Enemy. Is that confidence, or is that just adjusting to the streaming era?
It's pure streaming strategy. If a listener gets bored in the first 3 minutes on Spotify, they click away. You can't save the best for last.
You have to hit them with the hooks immediately.
Exactly. By the time you get to the back half of the album, tracks like Disassociate, Rope, Inside, I Exist, you're already hooked.
And the back half gets pretty dark phanically.
It does. But they save one surprise for the end. The final track is simply called Beautiful.
Which is such an interesting juxtaposition. You have this record called Mis-An-Thrope, full of angst and songs about alienation, and it ends on Beautiful.
It provides catharsis. After 30-something minutes of aggression, it acts as a release valve. And again, that's Feldmann's production genius, building an emotional arc into a heavy framework.
It really is a case study in adaptation. You have metalcore musicians adapting to nu metal, a pop producer adapting to heavy rock, and a rollout adapting 90s nostalgia for 2017.
And it worked. They proved nu metal wasn't dead, it just needed a facelift.
So as we wrap this up, what's the core takeaway for you from all these sources?
For me, it's the power of the right team. You can have great songs, but without Feldmann's polish and Durst's cosign, they might have stayed local. Dead understood that music at this level is a team sport.
That's a great point. For me, it's the sheer efficiency of it. 37 minutes, multiple charting singles, a steady drip feed of content. It was a machine perfectly built for its moment.
Absolutely.
But I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to chew on. The album title is Mis-An-Thrope. A misanthrope is someone who actively dislikes humankind and avoids society.
Right. It's the ultimate anti-social statement.
Yet, this album was produced by a pop hit maker, promoted with a high-budget video directed by a celebrity, and specifically engineered to reach millions of people on mainstream radio.
It's quite the paradox.
It really is.
Yeah.
So you have to wonder, was the anti-everything attitude a genuine reflection of the band's worldview? Or was Misanthropy simply the most marketable product they could sell to a frustrated rock audience in 2017? Were they truly misanthropes, or were they just giving you the exact soundtrack you needed to feel like one?
The chart data might just answer that for us.
It just might. That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.